Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Tuesday. Hold on, August 31st, 2021. How y'all doing? Obviously, I'm doing great. Just dropped Sage off for her second day of high school. Seriously, when did I get so old? When did my kids get so old? What is going on? Alright, so Phasmophobia's big update just launched. Like last week. Your car sounds like a spaceship. Can't tell if that's good or bad. Anyway, yeah. Big update. Like, a lot of visual rework, added new evidence type, completely reworked all the evidence type for the ghosts, changed how the hunt works, just so much. I have not played on this new update yet. I kind of feel like it's not gonna go well, but it has been really fun to watch InSim's videos. I'm hoping to catch one of Zero's streams this week and watch him play, but that's gonna be a little difficult because I'm also picking Sage up from school, and yeah, of course that's a giant mess. So yeah, usually I just have her take a bus, but like her bus stop is like 3/4 of a mile from our house, which I mean isn't terrible unless the weather kind of sucks, but she's also supposed to be at the bus stop at like 6:30 in the morning. Ew. And I figure as long as I'm working from home and I have the bandwidth to do it, I might as well do it. Anyway, so yeah, tons of big update to Phasmo, though I'm not going to talk very much about it, because then the Phasmo ghosts will ruin the episode. That's just how it works. But I've gotten to watch InSim die a lot in his videos, which is why I'm thinking I may not be able to play this. Let's see here. So, one, if you haven't listened to this week's episode of MTG Rants, I highly recommend. It's a really good episode. One of the things they did talk about, Tannen is apparently doing commentary for Flesh and Blood, which is pretty neat. So, some of the guys at the shop play Flesh and Blood, and Doc. That's just what we're going to call him, because he really reminds me of Christopher Lloyd's character in Back to the Future. I don't know why. He's not a time traveler or anything. I don't know. Anyway, he is the newest shop employee, though he's been there for a while. He offered to teach me how to play on Friday, so I think I might go and, like, do the tournament running stuff and answer judge questions, but instead of playing Magic, I might actually play this with him. Because I have gotten kind of intrigued on what this game is, mostly because it seems like a lot of old Magic pros have started playing it, and so it keeps showing up in my Twitter feed, and I'm highly impressionable, so like by the third or fourth time I saw it pop up in my Twitter feed, I'm like, okay, and now I must know about this thing. So I'm very interested, though. Hearing Tannen describe it, it sounds like Storm Deck, the game, where like you're chaining things together. I don't know what those things are. Are they spells? I don't know. What do we call them? I don't know. I don't know the nomenclature of the game yet. But I am very intrigued, and so probably gonna check it out. I really don't have the time for 2 TCGs. I don't. So, I don't know, may just be a passing interest. May keep an eye on it to see if it sticks around, because and this is something husband and I were talking about. So I've seen a lot of TCGs pop up and burn out in my time, and there are even more that have that I didn't see. Like, Battletech really had some promise. It's a shame that game did not have an opportunity to grow. And of course, there were the World of Darkness card games that I'm pretty sure you had to be a World of Darkness role player to appreciate in any way. I don't think the games themselves were good enough without tying into that fandom. There was a Lord of the Rings TCG, right when the initial trilogy was coming out. It was alright. It was a little weird, but of course, you know, that's after playing Magic, so. There was a very, very short-lived Game of Thrones card game based on the books before the show was even a thought by HBO. There was an X-Files TCG. Yeah, I played that for a hot minute, and that's about all it lasted. There have been like 3 different times there's been a Star Wars TCG, and those tend to hold on the longest before they burn out, because I don't know what George Lucas is putting in y'all's water. I personally am not a fan of the Star Wars franchise. I'm not. See, that makes it sound like I actively dislike it. And there's the running joke that George Lucas is my 3-point enemy and Quentin Tarantino is my 4-point enemy. Which, again, if you've never played World of Darkness RPG system, probably makes no sense. My brother was super into Star Wars, and I thought Han Solo was kind of cool. I liked Harrison Ford as a child. But I don't know. Space stuff has just never really been my jam. Like, wasn't super into Star Trek either. Despite being, you know, huge X-Files nerd. So, I don't know. I was just never really into it. I did watch parts of The Mandalorian, because, yeah, Baby Yoda, man. I mean, seriously, there are a lot of weird sounding cars on the road today. What is up with that? Anyway. But, I don't know. Just, Star Wars never really did it for me. I'm sorry. I know that, like, takes huge chunks of my nerd cred away, but that's how it is. Let's see here. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So the Star Wars TCGs ended to last a little bit longer before burning out, because that is a very loyal and dedicated fandom. It just gets to the point that, like, they get bored and move on. Yeah, sure. Your time's totally more important than mine. Absolutely. Let's see here. There was L5R. I used to actually play that. I played basically the FNM equivalent with L5R for like a whole season. The guy who ran it, like, helped me put my deck together and everything. It was this great Phoenix deck, and then, like, rotation happened. And I was like, well, this is bullshit. My whole deck's gone. They took away my block supply lines. No. And so I was mad at the game. And that one would, like, pop up in my friend group every once in a while. So it held on for a while, but it sounds like that's finally died out. You got, like, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Apparently they're still churning. Mythos was also very short-lived, and that's a shame, because that was a really neat game, and if it had a chance to develop a solid rule base, could have been pretty cool, but unfortunately, it didn't make it. Somebody did try to reboot a Mythos-style card game. God, this had to be back in, like, the early 2010s, I think. And husband was real excited about it, and then he, like, started reading stuff, like, reading through the rules and everything, he's like, this game's stupid. Fuck this game. Trying to think, like, yeah, there have just been so very many over the years, and Magic's been the only one that's held on. And I don't know if it's because it's the best, or if it's because, like, it was the first one that really gained traction. I don't know that it was actual, legit, the first TCG. Let's see if I can turn down over here, because I want out of this school zone. I don't know, they've been doing a lot of construction on the street, so sometimes I can turn down it, and other times I cannot. That giant truck there does not bode well. I just want my coffee. Let me go get my frilly fucking coffee, please. Biscuits. Yep, can't go that way. Alright, so we're gonna go up this way. Actually, like, directly in my neighborhood again, so. But it's weird. I've lived here for, I don't know, like, well, 8 years, I guess. And just really don't know how to navigate this neighborhood terribly well. So these streets are all messed up. Yep, that says road closed. Okay, let's go this way. Last I heard, what all this nonsense is they're installing gas lines. Cool, I guess. But it's annoying. Anyway, freeze ray. Let's go up this way. I think I have to go sit through that school zone. Tried to cheat. Got max punished. No, I do kind of know a different way I can go. Anyway, yeah, focus. So, as far as Flesh and Blood, like, yeah, it sounds neat. It sounds very different from Magic, which I think is a good idea. If you're going to try to enter the TCG space, do not try to be a clone of Magic, because you will lose to Magic. Like, if your game is not functionally different, you're, you know, basically going to be competing with this very established player base that, you know, have these vast collections and everything, and trying to woo them into playing something else. Because, you know, this kind of TCGs are kind of a niche thing. So when you're further trying to divide that smaller market space, you have to have something that makes you better, that makes you stand out. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with it. I do kind of want to learn how to play, but I don't think I'm really going to invest heavily in it until we see how much traction it looks like it's going to gain, because I've had my heart broken before. You know, I've played many of these TCGs over the years. So it's still probably going to be faster to go this way. Especially like in the years between when I was like 19 and like 23, I spent a lot of time at the guild, and, you know, pretty much every new thing that popped up, OG boss lady was like, hey, do you want to learn this? Because I spent so much time there anyway, I, you know, generally talk to new customers about, whatever game was hot at the minute and everything. So, and she felt that I was pretty approachable, being, a young woman playing, and made gaming approachable to, not typical gamers of the era that would accompany their typical gamer into the store. So yeah, I played a lot of these games. Some of them I did not play until more recent years because Husband and Epidemic both have like a nostalgia for things like Mythos and Battletech. So I played them in the last couple of years that, Epidemic bought a whole bunch of Battletech cards, and he was like, I'm gonna build some decks. Do you two want to play? And we were like, sure. I was like, I know nothing of the Battletech. And Husband's like, oh yeah, I used to play some Battletech. So, and then some of them I played while they were active, dropped a bunch of money on cards just for them to fizzle out and die. Now, they seem to have I think Tandem put it best where, wow, okay, you're aggressive. They basically grabbed up the old Magic OP system and are using that model for tournaments and everything. And I think with Magic having pretty much gutted, or with Wizards / Hasbro pretty much gutting the tabletop competitive scene, a lot of these old pro players are looking for a place to go to play that resembles what they know. So it'll be interesting to see what impact that has on WotC basically reversing that decision to not hold in-person tournaments anymore. I guess they haven't really said that they're not going to hold in-person tournaments anymore, but that's just kind of the feeling you get based on the announcements that have come out lately. So I'm interested to see what Flesh and Blood, putting pressure on the community basically by offering this thing that WotC seems to have abandoned. Like, if that causes them to decide, okay, nope, yes, we do need to have some tournaments. I don't know. I know it was a couple months ago, maybe it was pre-pandemic. I don't know. Time is a really fucking sketchy thing. I know it was an episode where they talked about the MPL and NOP and everything, and Ross made some really good points. It's like, at the time, everybody seemed to want the Magic pros to be paid. Okay, cool. Sure, I agree. But at the same time, every Magic player wants Magic Pro status to be, linear and easily attainable, which these two wants are kind of mutually exclusive. If you're going to pay the pros, definitely not everybody can be a pro. The company cannot pay every player. Like, I think about all the player whose names I recognize from the SCG tour, right? Even ones that's like, oh yeah, I think I saw them top 8 a thing once. Versus, the players like Ross and Tannen and Jim Davis and Todd Anderson. And yeah, there's no way that all of those players could be paid a salary. And it's just the unfortunate truth that Magic tournament winnings really aren't that big. But doing well in Magic tournaments causes people who want to be better at the game to be interested in what you have to say. So then you can get contracts writing articles. You can build up a good sized stream base, get subscribers on Twitch, and maybe even sponsors for your stream and everything, and kind of make your living that way. But I will say, I mean, of course, from my perspective, SCG always did a better job of marketing their high-end players than WotC did. But is that really true? I don't know. I didn't really consume a lot of WotC content because I didn't like how they did commentary. I'm not saying it's bad, it just didn't work for me. So, and I liked SCG's approach to it a lot more, where they tend to stay more focused on what's actually going on in the game and keeping up with, and now player A is tapping these lands, what are they gonna do? Whereas WotC commentary seemed to have an assumption that the viewer was actually actively sitting there watching the match, and therefore we really need to talk about what was going on because the viewer could see it. And like I mentioned way back, I tend to listen to tournament coverage more than I actively watch it. I'm usually listening to it while I'm working. I used to listen to the SCG archives a lot, just their YouTube videos of coverage from events, because they would break each round into videos and put it on the YouTube after, the event was over. They take those live coverage pieces. So, I wouldn't actually know what WotC really did to market, but at the same time, it seemed to be that there were a lot of big events that happened and nobody fucking knew they were happening until 2 days before. It's oh yeah, this major playoff for Rivals or the MPL is happening in 2 days. And it's what? Why did we not know about this until now? So, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so I'm interested in seeing what happens with Flesh and Blood. So I'm probably going to keep an eye on it over the next couple months until I either get fully sucked in or completely lose interest, which is the inevitable trajectories that this will take. This is going to be one of those two things. Let's see here. I really hate doing episodes that's I'm pretty much going to cover somebody else's coverage. But honestly, my Twitter feed's it's 10% developers, software developers, 40% artists, and then 50% Magic. But I haven't seen a lot of talk of these things happening, so I did get most of my news from the MTG Rants episode this week. There's a lot of stuff happening in the next year. A lot of Secret Lair stuff, which I really don't care about. And again, I'm not saying that to be dismissive. If you're into that sort of thing, cool. The only ones I care about, and not in a, ooh, I'm excited about this sort of way, but why the fuck did you do this? Is the Planeswalkers that are basically Legends cards. Like, what the shit? Why? Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Like, they're in the old border, which, of course, Planeswalkers weren't around during the old border, so there's not really a template for Planeswalkers, so they look basically like any other spell. They don't have the distinctive Planeswalker look with, like, the weird symbol with the loyalty counter costs and the starting loyalty down in the corner. They're worded really awkwardly, like cards from that era were. Seriously, go read Chains of Mephistopheles. And the actual effect of the card really isn't that difficult, but the way it's worded makes it sound like, yeah. I remember the first ever pre-release I did was Innistrad, and I pulled a matte Gutter Grime and a foil one. And at the end of round one, and I just got my face kicked in. But I didn't really know what I was doing, so that's not surprising. And my opponent was, like, one of the tournament, you know, the semi-tournament grinders. You know, played a lot competitively. And he's like, well, let me look over your pool with you. And let's see, like, maybe there are cards you're missing, you know, that you have that are really good and you haven't put in, and I can explain stuff to you. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds fun. And he comes to the Gutter Grimes, and he's like, why are you not playing this? And I'm like, because it had too many words. Like, too much. My attention span could not hold out past the first sentence. There are a lot of fucking words on that card. And, I mean, that's how some cards were back then, and most of them were pretty unplayable. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I'm gonna be annoyed about it. Tannen sounds really excited about it, and he's like, oh yeah, well, we know what they do. Okay, maybe you do. I have the broad strokes of, what was it? It was Karn liberated baby Teferi. Punt him into the sun Teferi. I hate the 3-mana Teferi. Well, I guess they're both 3-mana Teferis now, aren't they? Because if you get the plus, the turn you play the 5-mana one, it basically costs 3 mana. And I can't remember what the third one was. Is it Dak Faden or Dak and Blackblade, maybe? I always get them confused. Anyway. So there's one of them that, yeah, I have no idea what it does. And then, yeah, Karn liberated. I know the broad strokes. Teferi, I know the broad strokes. I don't know what the actual loyalty costs are or anything. It's just gonna be super goddamn annoying. Not a fan. But in general, as far as the secret layers go, I don't really care. I bought a few of them. I do kind of like that they've gone to having 5 different cards instead of, like, I bought 4 Thalia secret layers because I wanted to have a full playset of the one art that I really liked. I was really, really into the original Innistrad block storyline. And the TLDR of it is Sorin created Avacyn after his spark ignited so he could run around and do planeswalkery things on other planes. Over time, you know, Avacyn protected the plane of Innistrad. She had the Hellvault to lock away demons and other horrors. And then she got in a scrap with Gristlebrand, and in the process of trapping Gristlebrand in the Hellvault, also trapped herself. And then Innistrad kind of fell to shit. Meanwhile, Liliana, who sold pieces of her soul to 4 different demons to get herself back to near pre-mending power, decided that dead men may pay no debts, but dead men also collect no debts. So, she was just going to go murk all the demons she owed pieces of her soul to get out of her debts. Last one left was Gristlebrand, who she needed to get out of the Hellvault so that she could kill him. I don't remember the exact machinations, but somehow she gets Thalia to bust open the Hell Vault to release Avacyn, and in doing so releases Griselbrand along with everything else trapped in the Hell Vault. And Soren returned to the plane because he found out that, like, his plane had all fallen to shit since Avacyn disappeared, and he wanted to know what the hell happened to Avacyn. There you go. So, my favorite of the Thalia Secret Lair arts are the one of her in the foreground, looking downcast, and the Hell Vault blowing open behind her. So, I had to buy 4 of them to get this one art. I really would wish I could have just selected one of the arts and bought one with 4 copies of the art I wanted. But, whatever. I also bought the Seb McKinnon Secret Lair, which, by the way, if you are buying Secret Lairs because they sell and then it's like months later that they ship, keep an eye on the fulfillment schedule for them, because it turned out like my Seb McKinnon Secret Lairs, there was an issue with it, and I didn't realize until, because I actually bought an extra one of that Secret Lair to give to my one friend who moved away, and it was coming up on his birthday, and he was actually going to be in town. So, and I knew that was coming up, and I was like, yeah, so what's going on with that? And found that it had already been fulfilled and everything, just something happened with my order, and I had to contact customer service. So, yeah, make a note and try to stay on top of that, which, that's the other super fucking annoying thing about Secret Lairs, is you buy them, and then it's months and months later that they start fulfilling the order. It's almost like a Kickstarter, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, I'm interested in this product being made, so I will donate to this Kickstarter, except they take your money when you purchase the Secret Lairs, like when you put your order in, whereas Kickstarter doesn't take your money until the end of the backing period, and if it fails to back, like if they fail to meet their goal, nobody's money is taken, because the assumption is they're not going to have enough to produce the product. Whereas WotC just takes your money up front. And then it's like months and months later, and something causes you to think about, oh yeah, whatever happened with that, and then you find out that, yeah. They claim that it shipped and got RTS'd, except I never got a shipping notification for it, so I don't know. I kind of feel like my order just got lost, and I kind of feel like this indicates that they are printing more than the demand, or something, and they have them just kind of hanging out in the warehouse. I gotta pause you all real quick so I can put my order in. Oh yeah, Secret Lairs. So yeah, to me, that whole thing, not gonna lie, it feels kind of scammy, right? So, but yeah, there have been ones that I've been excited about, and I've bought them. Just nothing coming down the pipeline is anything that interests me, but if you're into it, you know, cool, be into it, be happy. My big problem with the Walking Dead Secret Lair is that new cards were introduced in this way, and being that none of us are privy to the actual contract, as far as people being like, oh yeah, well, I mean, if they become necessary to Commander, Legacy, Vintage, whatever, they'll just print more of them. And it's like, they may not actually be able to. Everybody talks about how we can't abolish the reserve list because this person said this thing verbally, and that was considered a promise, even though, you know, they no longer have controlling interest in the company. And, you know, it's this big legal to-do, but here there is an actual contract involved. So yeah, I do not like Secret Lairs being a vehicle to introduce new cards into the game. But, like, as far as the Fortnite one, reskinning other cards, like, I call it the Ikoria treatment. Yeah, sure, whatever. The first time a, you know, Wrath of Tomato Town, or whatever that card is called, is played against me, I'll be like, the shit is that? Oh, it's a Wrath of God. Okay, cool, fine. But aside from that, it doesn't really affect me. And if people are, excited because it's Fortnite, cool, be excited. What I'm a little sick of is, Modern Horizons 2 was definitely the worst set for it, where there are literally 4 different versions of every card in the set. 8 if you count the foil versus non-foil versions. And that is fucking excessive. And it's just annoying. It was one thing when it's like, oh yeah, so for the mythics in the set, what is that, maybe a dozen cards in a given set? Sure, there's alternate art, full art, that appears in some boxes. I have to pause y'all again quick. Yeah, I find that shit so goddamn annoying, and yeah, okay, I caught up. So it was one thing when it was a small subset like the mythics in a set, having this, super rare alternate version. And the, masterpiece style cards, sure, okay, fine. Some of them I loved, some of them I'm like, doesn't do it for me. That doesn't mean any of them are bad. It just means some of them are not for me, which is fine. But this, oh, we have to have a billion different versions of every goddamn card. And, in the same set. That's what really puts a bee in my bonnet. Sorry, I'm eating some breakfast quick while I get through the rest of this recording. This one's gonna be a kind of long one. There's just a ton of school traffic. I don't know if there are a lot of other parents that are like, well, I'm working from home anyway. Or if there are a bunch of parents that are like, maybe packing kids 2 and 3 to a seat in a bus while the pandemic is still going on is not the best idea we've ever had. But a lot of school traffic. So, anyway. Yeah, by and large, most of the secret layers I just don't care about. And it's totally fine if you do. If you're jazzed about them, totally. Be excited, be happy. And Ross actually has made this point a couple times, that he seems to also have difficulty with how many different alternate special edition yada yada versions of cards there are, but he finds it difficult to say anything without catching some flack from all the people who like a particular kind, like a particular special printing. So, let people like what they want to like. I mean, sure, but can we just admit that this has gotten to be excessive? What the hell is it suddenly oh yeah, we're gonna print everything in old border. Why? Like, we clearly decided we didn't like those borders anymore. I mean, I'll admit, I do actually like the kind of sketch, like, prototype versions with the desaturated coloring, and, you know, there are a lot of grayscale with, like, little hints of color here and there. The art style really appeals to me, but still, this has just gotten ridiculous. But, I mean, I'm definitely sounding like an old lady who has a few too many cats, but I don't know, that's how I feel about it. They're bringing back the store championship, which, cool, I guess. So, alright, store championships. Way back when game day first started, we would do Swiss cut to top 8. I think game day was like only a $5 tournament. And we'd have the top 8 play out to have a decided winner who would get the one playmat. And after a while, boss was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that anymore because this can take forever. Depending on how many people you have show up. And like I want to say it was the Fate Reforged one. It was the one with the super fucking sweet Ugin mat. I wanted it so bad, and I got second. I lost to Judge, actually. So, I don't remember how many people we had show up for that, but we had like 5 rounds of Swiss, and then top 8. So this was like a 9-round, $5 tournament for a playmat. It got pretty ridiculous. Like, we were there super late. I think we also used to run them on Sunday, which just kind of added to it, how absurd this was. Because 1, the store closed earlier on Sunday than it did Saturday, and 2, us old heads with 9 to 5s, you know, now we're at the store all annoyingly late. Also, Sunday's chore day at my house, so created problems there. So, the store championship tournaments really encourage there to be a cut to top 8. And again, like, I guess he could make it a higher stakes tournament, charge a higher entry fee, and do, you know, prize support from the store to augment, you know, the promos and stuff, and the store champion mat, and make it for more than just these little kind of token winnings. Though, I gotta say, having Coco be the top 8 promo for the first one is pretty nice, but WotC, well, most organizations do kind of have a habit of when they first like, yeah, do this thing, get promos, do this thing that's going to cost you money, get promos, and they start out with like really good promos, but like, you know, the next wave of Judge Academy promos, they're not great. Like, fucking birthing pod. What format is that legal in that it is relevant? And maybe I just have a really skewed perception of card value. I don't know. It seems like the promo set is banned, the promos. Like, hearing Tannen gush about these damn dig-through times. So, we've been doing the F&M promos for, I don't know, I guess the whole time we've been back. I don't hand them out. The store does. So, I haven't really been paying attention. But I have like 5 of these fucking dig-through times. And I'm tired of getting dig-through time. Because, again, it's just not playable in any relevant format. So, what am I going to do with these damn things? I want me some Goblin Guides. Also, like, even Mind Sensor, really, that was the best you could do for white. I mean, come on now. Goblin Guide and Scoos are the only ones that I've seen from this promo run that see any play. I suppose even Mind Sensor shows up in Tax's decks from time to time. And Bolus's Citadel, does anybody play that card in absolutely anything? And, as far as F&M promos, yeah, sure, it's a totally free thing you get for showing up to play in F&M. It's not like we increased the admission cost because, well, everybody's getting one of these sweet promos. So, whatever, they're free things, fine. And we've already discovered over time that you can't make the F&M promos too valuable. Otherwise, they don't end up actually being F&M promos. I mean, and it's a promo card. Like, again, it's a free thing that gets tossed at you for showing up to the store and playing in their F&M. It doesn't have to be great. Even when they're, like, super complete terabad. Whatever. It's a piece of chaff you lay on the table and you leave laying on the table and my kid scoops up at the end of the night. Fine. Whatever. But I mean, yeah, okay, I'm excited about... And what is the regular one? Isn't it like Arbor Elf or something like that? Yeah, something kind of nice. But yeah, I anticipate that the quality of these promos will take a steep drop over time. Because that's just kind of what history shows happens. So yeah, like, am I excited about the store championship coming back? Like 50-50 on it. As long as they don't take away my pre-releases. I know there frequently pops up the thread of conversation of why do we even have pre-release anymore? Hey, you just back off. So, yeah, stuff's happening. You might be excited about it. I'm not excited about any of it. There does seem to be a more kind of dedicated eye to Pioneer, which I am actually kind of excited about. I would love to see that format, have healing hands laid upon it and pulled back together and rallied. Yeah, Pioneer got a rough shake there. I think it was deep enough to stand on its own as a format. I think that was the problem with the Frontier format, that I want to say that it was like TCG Player that tried to make it a thing. It wasn't backed by WotC or anything. And I think the problem is when they tried to make that a thing, the card pool for it just wasn't deep enough to feel like a format in and of itself. It's kind of like what happened with Historic and why they feel the need to throw a bunch of random bullshit into that format. Which is why, like, Historic just grates on my nerves. And as long as I don't have to look at it, whatever, y'all have fun playing it. But I can't look at it. It just makes me angry every time I look at it. But it was the same kind of problem there, and that's why they had to infuse it with a bunch of random bullshit. It wasn't deep enough to stand on its own as a format. And then there was talk that they're like, oh yeah, they're going to merge Historic and Pioneer into one format, and I'm like, the fuck they are. They better not. I'm gonna be mad. And it seems like we are not following that plan, which makes me very happy. But Pioneer was deep enough to be its own format. It had a lot of cool stuff going on. It's just, like, weird to me that, you know, they banned Todd Anderson's deck every week for the first 3 weeks. Yeah, I think Todd is, like, single-handedly responsible for the majority of the bans in Pioneer. Then Demir Inverter shows up and they're like, nah, it's fine. Like, are you fucking kidding? Now, I mean, I think they went a little aggressive and went a little scorched earth when they did decide to finally do something about it. I don't think the Heliod Ballista deck needed a ban. Sure, it definitely got more powerful once blue started getting included. Because, again, you could then protect the combo. And that is when combo decks are a problem. Is when they're basically control decks that are just buying time to assemble their combo and win. Because control has the ability to buy a lot of time. And again, with Demir Inverter, and this was my biggest problem with Demir Inverter, is your only recourse against that deck was to counter the spells. If those spells resolved, it didn't matter if you insta-glimped the Inverter of Truth. The effect still happened. It didn't matter if you insta-glimped the Thassa's Oracle, because by that point, chances were they didn't need the devotion from the Oracle itself to matter. So that was the big problem with that deck, is there was only one way to disrupt the combo. And that was countering. So your ability to interact with what they're doing is incredibly limited. Meanwhile, they're ripping your hand apart, killing all your shit, and countering all your spells. Like, no. Like, that deck was an abomination and should not have been allowed to piss all over that format for so long. But WotC, clearly had their focus elsewhere and just weren't willing to address it. And more likely, they weren't willing to ban the deck that was selling packs of the current standard set. You can say it's whatever else, it's the pandemic, it's this, it's that, but no, the reason they weren't willing to address that deck until they eventually did was because it was selling cards. And that's it. Let's not mince words. And, as far as, WotC is a company that exists in a capitalist market, so they have to make money, and yeah, I've defended some of the stuff they've done over the years with, they have to do this to stay in the market and everything, and we have an interest in them staying in the market, but there is a point at which you kind of jump the shark and go from, okay, you're trying to turn a profit, to you are obviously cash grabbing. And this is no longer about any kind of quality product. This is about grabbing as much profit as you possibly can. And I think we have quite surpassed that inflection point. I mean, look at Arena. This is marketed as this, oh yeah, it's totally free to play. Sure, it's free to play. Yeah, okay. No, it's not if you want to play in any way competitively. Or if you want it to be fun. Because that's the thing, is even if you're like, yeah, no, I'm not trying to get to Mythic. I'm not trying to do any of that. If you want to have fun, you want to get to actually play in the games you participate in. In order to do that, you need to build decks that have play against what's in the meta. Even if you're not going to be winning or whatever, you still want to get to play. That's the thing. Like, I'm playing Naya Enchantress currently in Modern. I am playing Saffron Olives build from MTG Goldfish. And, yeah, it's fun. I went 2-2 on Friday. That's been my best record with the deck. The thing is, though, I've lost a lot of games with it that were good games. It was fun. And sure, I lost. Sure. I don't care about that. I care about we had a good exchange. We had fun. We each got to do things. And my deck started doing its thing, and then my opponent stopped it from doing its thing. And there we go. Like, it was fun, interactive. I don't care about losing. I just want to get to actually play the game. But I've been on those decks where, you know, brain says, oh, this deck's a great idea. This is why I do not brew decks anymore. Because there's something about it that nope, never goes well. It's like, oh my god, this is going to be super cool. And then you just never get your feet under you. You're like dead before you get to the point where you can actually do anything. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. So, with Arena, it's not even about, like, whether you can win. It's whether you can actually play a game against the opponent you got matched to. And with the way Arena manipulates fucking matchmaking and really everything else that happens, it bugs me. That's why Arena and I are not currently on speaking terms, and probably won't be for the foreseeable future. Because I get so tired of, like, oh, yeah, the Scoot Swarm deck that Merchant put out there. It was an adorable deck, and no, I didn't expect it to win. I just expected to have fun with it. And then you just get matched up against every deck that, like, you have no play against. Okay, fine. Well, I have the mono white deck. So I'll play that for a while. Because it would be really good against all these decks I played against for the past 3 fucking hours. And then now you no longer get matched against those decks. You get matched against decks that just stomp the shit out of that one. So the thing is like, with Arena, and I know it's confirmation bias or whatever, you can tell me that I'm, you know, wearing my tinfoil hat or whatever, and I don't care. Say whatever you want. But with Arena, I would have days where I ran hot and, like, couldn't possibly lose. Like, I would fuck up, I would misplay, I would see it, and I would still win the game. And then you have days where you just run absolutely stone cold. Like, can't get any traction any game you play. And, like, I just couldn't do it. It became just a constant source of stress. Now, if you're trying to stay in with what's going on in Standard, and even if you're like, okay, well, I'll play Historic instead. Because those are your two options on there, right? You can either play Standard, where you have to keep up with rotations and everything else, so you get to play your deck for a few months, and then, you know, maybe you get to play it for an entire Standard season, that it doesn't just get completely invalidated by new cards coming out. If you're really lucky, you get to do that. All right, cool. But rotation will eventually happen and force you to have to build something new and cash in a bunch of wild cards. So if your answer is, okay, well then I'm going to play Historic instead, because then my deck won't rotate. Okay, cool. Except for the fact that you're going to need cards that aren't in the current Standard, and then you have to cash in wild cards for it. This is like idea of, oh, well, we don't want a secondary market because we want this to stay attainable. No, I maintain it has got to be more expensive to play at any kind of competitive level on Arena than it is on Moto. Card rental services notwithstanding. Like, even if you don't factor that in. Because on Moto, you can get yourself a, like a Modern deck. Something that is always okay in Modern. Like Burn, it's always okay. There are some times when the format's gotten a massive shakeup that it's better, because during that massive shakeup, everybody's trying to find the most busted thing you can do with the way the format sits now, and it takes them a couple weeks, and so you get to take advantage of the stumbles and the, oh, this card seemed like it would be so good in this deck, but it's not. What else? Control is kind of hit or miss, because you have to actually know what you're playing against to effectively play Control. Jund always has some kind of play. Death Shadow always has some kind of play. I would say dredge until they ban Faithless Looting. Can we please fucking unban Faithless Looting? Like, that card did not need to go, but I know there are many who disagree with me. So there are decks that they may not always be the best deck to be playing that weekend or, you know, for a time span, but they always have some play. You're not just going to get completely blown out every game. You can buy that deck, and then there you go. And I suppose on Arena, the same argument can be made that you can make one historic deck, and, you know, if you need standard cards for it, okay, do some drafts when the next standard set comes out or whatever, and try to get them, or accrue some wild cards for it. Except the barrier to build that historic deck at this point is just so much greater. Unless you're like Tan and Grace, and you pretty much only play limited on Arena, so you have like a billion or so wild cards. But eventually that runs out if you get to the point where you find you have to pivot away from a deck. If your deck gets banned, holy shit, would that piss me off in Arena Historic. I cashed in all these wild cards, and like, okay, well, we gave you your wild cards back. Well, you gave me my wild cards back for the cards that you banned. Not for the support cards that only work in this strategy, and therefore are now completely useless. So, like, I appreciate that they try to do something, and they're like, okay, we'll give you the rare and mythic wild cards that you cashed in back. You know, it's at least something, but at the same time, it does not take into account however many cards ended up in that deck that just, in any other deck, are complete shit. Like, Splinter Twin. When Splinter Twin got banned, does anybody play Deceiver Exarch in anything else? Nope. Arcbound Phoenix, right? When the Phoenix deck got banned, what else is absolutely anybody playing Thing in the Ice in? Well, okay, so Arclight didn't actually get banned. Faithless Looting got banned, which really kneecapped the deck. But again, what other deck are you playing Thing in the Ice in? So even if they had said, okay, we're just going to go for the throat and we're going to ban Arclight Phoenix, we're going to shut that deck down. You have all these support cards in this deck that work really great with the strategy of the deck, but once you take away that strategy and you make that not a thing, you have all these support cards that on Arena you cash in wild cards so you could build the deck that are now fucking useless, and you get nothing for them. So, yeah. Arena really feels inherently predatory. Over on the Game Theory channel, Matt Pat did an episode about, like, the app games like Candy Crush and that kind of shit, and how they exploit brain mapping to people with addictive nature. People call it addictive personality, but their studies have found that there is actually differences in the brain of those that become easily addicted to those that can, you know, go on a bender every now and again, but they're not an alcoholic. And that these games are built to prey on that and exploit that. And Arena Economy really looks a lot like Candy Crush, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Or is it just me? I really feel like Arena is inherently predatory. Most microtransaction models are. So, yeah. That's what I got to say on that. I have to get in and get logged in for work and figure out where I am on everything, so I'm ready for my status call. Anyway, I know this episode was just like a lot of bitching. Part of that is I'm very, very tired. Oh my god, I'm so fucking tired. And just kind of burn out. And part of it is like, I don't know. I've turned into quite the curmudgeon lately. Hopefully over the next few weeks I will get more acclimated to our new schedule and whatnot and be less tired and... Sorry. I didn't realize it would make the noise. And, like, announcements will come out that I'm actually excited about, and I will have exciting things to talk about. Or I'll just go to talking about Phasmophobia a whole bunch, or maybe I'll learn how to play Flesh and Blood, and I'll talk about that a bit. But As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening. Wow, we're over an hour today. And hopefully I'll talk to y'all again next week.